Uh, I know it's been a little while since I've, started back streaming or whatever, hanging out with y'all. But this week has been a very hectic week, especially in the sports world. I don't know what you were doing Tuesday night, but yeah, Bam Adebayo scored 83 points in a game. And to be honest, I don't know how to feel about it. You know what I'm saying? As my name would kind of suggest, I'm a Kobe fan. Well, not the name that you guys know me as, but my actual birth name. Yeah, my folks were Kobe fans. More specifically, my mother. But don't start that shit. I'm not even trying to cuss, but we don't start that. Don't start that. Do not start that. But I'm gonna go ahead and just say this, right? While there are people that are extremely angry about it, Eric, what's going on with you? While there are people that are angry about it, I understand, but we gotta chill. We gotta chill. But anyways, Jimmy dropped a video on it, and as you can see by this title, it's been a pretty controversial week. You feel me? But I'll give you my opinions later. But let's just go ahead and react to this. All right.
Scoring nights throughout NBA history, and you will see a list of the greatest players to ever play the game. Jordan 69, Steph 62, Lillard 71, Luka's 73, Kobe Bryant's famous 81. It's the most coveted record book in all of basketball, a testament and historical evidence of the greatest nights in NBA history by some of the greatest players in NBA history. Which begs the question, what the hell is Bam Adebayo doing here with a mind-boggling modern NBA record of 83 points?
And you said it's crazy that he only had 26 in the first half. Are you sure? Because I could have sworn he had like 40 something or like 30 something, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, he ended the game with 83.
Well, this, my friends, is the result of quite possibly the most egregious case of stat padding the NBA has ever seen. And despite scoring the second most points in a single game in the history of the NBA, Bam's 83-point night will go down as one of the most shocking and controversial games we may ever see.
Oh, you're talking about Kobe's 81. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kobe had 26 in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I was initially talking about Bam. And why you keep on typing this man's name in all caps, bro? I don't know, something about that pissing me off. But yeah, like, to be quite honest with you, at first when I heard it happen, I was like, yo, this is crazy. This is history. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, out of all the people in the NBA that we would, like, if you would have paid me money to try to guess who it was, I wouldn't have guessed it would be Bam at all. I wouldn't have guessed it to be Bam. But considering the fact that all the stars aligned on this night, you know what I'm saying? With Tyler Hero being out, I think them playing the Wizards, it being a home game, his girl was out there. Speaking of, I did see her shirt. That was crazy. That's crazy. And I also saw the RDC skit. Y'all boys are up in arms about this. And part of me understands, but we'll go ahead and get into that in a second. That emoji string is it just does something to my spirit. Today's video is
sponsored by Arena Club.
Hey man, I'm glad you got sponsored, but not over here.
On Tuesday night, in a game featuring the Washington Wizards and the Miami Heat, with 1 minute and 46 seconds left in the fourth quarter, the Heat were up 146 to 119. By all conceivable measures, this game was a blowout. It's over.
Yup.
But with that being the case, why is Drew Smith attempting a full court heave while his team is up nearly 30 points on a piss-poor Wizards team? Well, he's not. He's trying to get the ball to Bam Adebayo, who is being double-teamed 50 feet away from the ball because he has 79 points and absolutely no intention of subbing out of this game.
I want you to look at this. Like, this is a real thing. This really happened. Like, part of me is still like shocking. Like, I'm still shocked. I turned it on for the last 5 minutes. It was atrocious, bro. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Just let me get through the video a little bit because I got opinions.
His historic total will be at the free throw line because Washington is now guarding him with their entire roster. And what started as a normal basketball game has now become a full-blown circus act. But it didn't start this way.
And thank you for saying that,
just
Benito.
The first quarter
Thank
of
you.
This game, Bam
Because
Adebayo
I was just about to say that once he brought it up. Mind you, I didn't watch the game live, but I went back and tried to look at the stats and stuff like that and try to look at some film. Buddy was actually hooping. Regardless if whether or not the fourth quarter or, you know what I'm saying? Let's say he didn't play the fourth quarter. That would still would have been an amazing game. So much so that if he would have just sat out the whole fourth quarter, people would have thought about it like, hey, he might have been on pace to break the record. If he would have scored the same amount of points he did in the second or in the third or the first, he might have been able to actually do it. Or he would have gotten like dangerously close. But I feel like all of that is about to be overshadowed by the BS that happened in that fourth quarter. And for those of y'all that don't know, it gets terrible. Like bad.
Had 31 points, the second most points scored in the first quarter of a game in
31
NBA
points
history.
In the first quarter.
By halftime, Bam had 43, already a career high, and the second most points scored in the first half of a game in NBA history. Going into the third, the Wizards still had no answer for Bam. His points still flooding in both naturally in the flow of the game and ethically. By the end of the third, Bam had 62 points, which, you guessed it, is the second most points through 3 quarters in NBA history.
62 points going into the fourth quarter. And for somebody that scored 62 points in a game, it would make sense for fans to be like, okay, if you score 62, what's another 20? Especially the fact that like you done score about 20 points per quarter. You know what I'm saying? So like it makes sense. But I want you to pay attention to what he just said a second ago. He did it ethically. And I feel like that's what the main issue is. That's what the main issue is with this whole thing. It's the ethics behind it.
Quarter, Bam's performance was already being celebrated by his teammates and fans. He had broken LeBron's franchise scoring record of 61. He set a new career high, and the Heat were blowing the Wizards out by 20. And it is at this point where Bam and his coaching staff are left with a decision. Stay in the game and build onto an already substantial lead. Leave the floor and sub out as the hero of the night, or stay in the game and potentially chase the league's scoring record. What decision should they make? Well,
Now, let me ask y'all an opinion. If you were on that court, what would you do? What would you do? If you had a choice in the matter, would you go for that 81? Or go for that 100? Or would you sit out of respect for the other team? Like, come on. For those of y'all that have played sports, I feel like there is a very obvious answer. Okay, you ain't have to say that. you Bonito, you didn't. Hey. Rest in peace to the Black Mamba. You know what I'm saying? Your legacy will ever be etched in the game of basketball. You just not gonna be the second highest scorer in the game of in an NBA game anymore. That's just the only case. Now the coach take me out. That's exactly. And I really want to make this a necessary point. And I feel like he's gonna bring this up, but I'm gonna just say it for my own sake anyway. A lot of the times when these people are like, you know, high up or of high importance to a team, in games like this, they're getting subbed out because they're saving their legs, and you know that's money at risk. You know what I'm saying? The last, like, a prime reason for stuff like that is what happened to Derrick Rose. Like that's one of my favorite players of all time. But that if he would have gotten out when he got out, you know what I'm saying, when he was supposed to get out, or when it would have been ethical to take him out, it would have been, we would be talking about Derrick Rose in a completely different light, whether it be better or worse. You know what I'm saying? And you up 30 against the trash teams, dude. Like, it would have been completely pointless if Bam were to have gotten hurt or had, like, let's just say, God forbid, he had a career-ending injury, and that's how it happened, because he was on the court when he ethically shouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? It comes with the territory. But if you're anybody with a competitive bone in their body, and you take pride in the things that you do, and your God-given ability, and the ability that you worked hard to cultivate and keep up with, and, you know, meet potentially, dude, you gonna sit there and hoop till the wheels fall off. You know what I'm saying? If you're competitive, you understand the fact that, like, if you're hot and if you're going and they can't stop you, you keep going until either the game ends or they stop you.
Just so happens that I covered this exact predicament in my last video, where I asked the question, is it possible to score 100 points in an NBA game? The final verdict? Yes, it is possible. The only problem? The circumstances required to have such a game are so unlikely that we will probably never see 100 points ever again. Unless a player is willing to infringe on the integrity of the game itself. There have been many games throughout the years that had record-breaking potential, but for a few reasons, most notably the game being a blowout and the potential record breaker respectfully sitting the final quarter, there have been very few instances where a player was able to genuinely chase the record without any negative consequences. How did Bam Adebayo drop the most points in modern NBA history on a random Tuesday night in March?
Great respect to let him play. History of the NBA. Now three.
But he got a point. I'm pretty sure that man attempted, I think he attempted like 44 free throws.
And infringing on the integrity of the game. In what could have been a celebrated, memorable, and ethical performance, Bam and the Heat decided to go a different route. With about 9 minutes left in this game, Bam had this incredible
36 for 43.
Followed up with this great acrobatic finish at the rim through contact, and an explosion from the fans in the arena. And after hitting the free throw, this would have been the ideal and historically acceptable moment for Bam to check out of this game. It was his 70th point of the night. Miami had the game all but wrapped up. And up to this point, all of his points were ethical, non-GMO, farm-raised buckets. But instead, Bam stayed in the game. And here is how he scored his final 13 points. Free throw, free throw, free throw, free throw, miss three, layup, free throw, miss three, turnover, miss three, free throw, free throw, free throw, free throw, intentional miss free throw, attempting to manufacture more points, free throw, free throw. Bye-bye Kobe, hello Bam. In what is now being called the most unethical game of basketball the league has ever seen, the Miami Heat spent the final 7 minutes of this game executing every conceivable tactic to manufacture more points for Bam Adebayo.
All right. And this brings me to my biggest point. For those of y'all that are continuously slandering this man or slandering this game because of how he got to 83, I'm like, respectfully, I need y'all to shut up. I really need y'all to shut up. Because the main component, and this goes from Harden back on the Rockets, how y'all was complaining about him foul baiting, to SGA foul with the foul baiting, y'all complaining about him being a free throw merchant when he was taking more free throws at an earlier point in time, and y'all weren't saying anything about that. To now, like it doesn't make sense, and here's why. In order for someone to be taking a lot of shots from the free throw line, that means that they had to get fouled a lot of times, which means the defense had to be identified as doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing. Now, the whole baiting and, flopping, stuff like that, people have been flopping for years. If you have a problem with people flopping and getting calls off of it, I can understand it. But you also have to understand that that's part of the game. Just like there are sneaky defenders that like to put their hands on you way too much and they never get called for it, there's also players that like to manipulate the game in such a way that it's easy for refs to see when they get touched. Or in a more egregious case, for them to fool refs into thinking that they got touched. That's what comes with more IQ, more experience, more athleticism, more modern day basketball play. I don't understand this whole ethical thing. Yes, it may not be as entertaining to see because the ball stops. There isn't as much transition break. But they're playing to win. These are paid millionaires that go out and play basketball to win games. If they understand the rules so much so that they can bend them to their will, then you should expect them to bend it to their will. Then the rules get updated and then it's rinse and repeat all over again.
Chucking up unnecessary threes, intentionally fouling the Wizards to get possession, even going as far as intentionally missing a free throw to try to get the ball back to Bam.
And that part is where I call it BS. Now, foul baiting, that's one thing. But you going over here, going out your way to foul the other team and miss shots on purpose just for other people to get points, that's when the whole stat padding thing kind of goes into the conversation, and it's not cool. You know what I'm saying? But if the method is like foul baiting and they drive into the hoop and they just boom and they get called for some foul shots, that's fine for me. But when it got egregious in the fourth quarter, it got really freaking bad.
And as a result, they are quickly discovering why Kobe's modern scoring record stood for so long and why no one can seem to match it despite a number of players getting close. Because, wait, I actually already said this a week ago. Let me find the clip real quick. 100 points in a single game is possible, but the circumstances required to have such a game, to justify one player taking that many shots and doing so without infringing on the integrity of the game, is so narrow that we may never see it happen again. Ah, that's right. The fallout for unapologetically chasing out. Yeah. This is truly a definitive and timeless paradox of big performances. Historic nights like this have become
he's
less
not lying.
about
He's not lying about that,
and more about, do the circumstances require a player to pull it off? In which case the circumstances virtually never do. This performance from Bam is not only proof of that, but it is evidence of what we all have known to be the truth. There are many players around the league right now who could go for 80, 90, maybe even 100 points on the right night, if they set their mind to it, if them and their team game plan for it, if it is their sole focus for 48 minutes, if the Washington Wizards are on their schedule. But even attempting something like this would require a player to break the unwritten rules of basketball. And that clearly isn't worth the backlash of possibly pulling it off. It isn't worth it. So what were the fruits of Bam's labor? The second most points in a single game in NBA history, the most free throw attempts in a single game in NBA history, by far the most free throws made in a game in NBA history, and the 5th most three-pointers attempted in a game. Oh, and he also broke the record for the most criticism received by a single player in one game. Now, if we ignore all context and what it took to get there, according to the game score metric, which takes all the good things a player does in the box score minus all the bad things and spits out a number that attempts to reflect the impact a player had on a game, Bam had statistically the 6th best game in NBA history, which is unfortunate that it will not be remembered as such. In my last video, I used this chart to display the greatest scoring nights in NBA history and the pace these players were on to reach their final totals. For example, here's Luka's 73, here's Booker's 70, Lillard's 71, here's Kobe's 81, and here is Bam's 83. Through 3 quarters, he was tied for the 2nd most points all time going into the 4th. In fact, that and one bucket in the 4th quarter that I mentioned earlier is right here. All of his buckets leading up to this point were non-forced ethical buckets within the flow of the game.
So, with that being said, I kind of want to shift the narrative of the whole ethical basketball thing, because I feel like all of it is ethical, except for, like, you know, purposely missing shots, or, you know, unnecessarily, like, how do I word this? Like, for example, in this very game, people were missing free throws unintentionally just so they could get another opportunity to get Bam more points. I don't necessarily like that, right? I don't necessarily like them intentionally fouling the other team just so they could get the ball back sooner, just so they can have more opportunities to get Bam more points. I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? But I want to shift the narrative from it being ethical hoops to things that are natural. You know what I'm saying? Things that are natural. And what I feel like what people have a problem with is when the game starts looking unnatural. I feel like that's where most people have the problem. When people are doing things or not doing things that they're supposed to do in the certain positions that they're in. Like, for example, if you're at the free throw line, supposed to be shooting a free throw, you're supposed to be trying to make the free throw, right? There are certain cases where intentionally missing the free throw is a valid option, right? But in those specific cases, those things are natural. Especially when you have a higher IQ involved, those things are, you know, made more prevalent as an option. But in situations like this, it wasn't a good option. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a natural option that the game situation called for it to be. But as far as like ethical hoops goes, I feel like it should be labeled as more natural hoops, because most of the times the stuff that y'all are calling unethical or like degrading to the game of basketball, it's not really degrading. It may just hurt your experience as it may just, you know, bog down your experience as a viewer. You know what I'm saying? But it's not unethical. It's just probably unnatural to a viewer, because if you're foul baiting, or if you're trying to, you know, embellish a call or something like that, try to sell a foul a little bit more, make things a little bit more obvious, that's natural. If you're you know what I'm saying, the higher levels that you go up in basketball, that's more of a natural thing, because people are smarter, faster, you know, stronger, a lot more aware. You know what I'm saying? So they tend to be allowed to get away with certain things. And not because, like, oh, they're just NBA players, while that may be a case, but it's because the refs don't genuinely see it. And that's just that. But the conversation needs to change from things that are unethical to things that are unnatural to watch, or just unnatural in general.
Adebayo was playing out of his mind, better than anyone ever has in modern NBA history, even before all of these shameless scoring tactics were deployed.
Yes,
the stat padding that
he was
spurred
still
all of
playing
this outrage
very
took place
well
here
for
in the
75% of
final
the
9
game,
minutes
bro.
of the game. All of this is now invalid because of this.
And I don't like
A
that.
week ago, I said the methods the Warriors used to get Wilt to 100 were outrageous and would never be used in the modern NBA. 7 days later, we're watching a center get triple teamed 94 feet out while up 25 with no admissible reason for him still being on the court. I now stand corrected. But I don't think these final minute tactics are worth discrediting this entire performance.
Right.
83 points is 83 points. Regardless of how you go about getting them, you still have to go out and get them. The irony of this whole thing is that I've seen a lot of comments about how this game was proof for some fans that Wilt Chamberlain actually did score 100 back in 1962 despite there being no video evidence. If Bam can get to 83, Wilt Chamberlain could and definitely did get to 100. Which there's already a laundry list of proof from that game. I don't know why this would be the determining factor. But if Bam's game is being ridiculed and dismissed, even if the criticism is justified, then so should the mythical 100-point scoring record. Because the way that Bam got his points is the exact method Wilt used to get his. Like, literally, bar for bar. During the final.
No, that's some information I didn't know. And y'all are somehow getting mad at Bam when his performance is just as egregious and unethical as Wilt's 100-point game. Seems like you have other people to get pissed off at before you get to Bam. But that's my opinion. And why should it matter? It really shouldn't. Because like he said, if you score 83 or you score 100, that's still a tall task in its own. You're scoring 83 points versus the top X percentage of people in the world. So good that their talents got them exposed to other people across the globe and got them into the NBA and allowed them to stay in the NBA. Like 83 is 83, 81 is 81, and 100 is 100. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. Now, what I will say is, with that new information put in mind, you're going to have to put more respect on Kobe's 81. All of this just shows you how impressive Kobe's 81 was. Because he did it all ethically, all naturally. He was down for a good bit of that game. He was like, the Lakers were down for a good bit of that game. So he needed to score that much in order to, try to will his team to win. But there's no other cases in this top 3 conversation that involves that.
Final minutes of Heat Wizards, Keyshawn Johnson intentionally missed a free throw in hopes that the Heat would get the rebound to get it back to Bam. This is exactly what the Warriors did for Wilt. The Heat also intentionally fouled while holding an insurmountable lead to get the ball back faster. The Warriors did the same exact thing to get Wilt to 100. If Bam's 83 points is invalid because of these tactics, then for that same reason, so is Wilt's 100. Not only did the 2 biggest scoring nights in NBA history deploy the most gimmicky, shameless tactics to pull it off, this is quite possibly the only way to pull it off. The only difference between Bam's 83 and Wilt's 100 is video cameras and an angry mob of critics online. Now, to be completely honest,
he just pointed it out. I want y'all to listen to that again, because I feel like that's very important
to pull it off. The only difference between Bam's 83 and Wilt's 100 is video cameras and an angry mob of critics online.
The methods are all the same. We're just the first to witness it in real time with video and internet. As far as I'm concerned, this is Wilt Chamberlain's 100.
Now, to be completely honest, I was thrilled to finally see a coach allow his player to chase a record and have himself a night that most players could only dream of. You want to know how many games I've watched that were spoiled by an early sub? A player being punished for giving too much belt to the opposing team. A 3-point party cut short because they were playing too good. Potential record shut down because it wouldn't be in good taste. If this is what it takes to make up for all the times I had to watch Steve Kerr pull a player from a game on the verge of a league record, then so be it. I am just as surprised as you that I will now see Bam Adebayo's name above Kobe Bryant's for the rest of my days. But to see Bam have the audacity to stay in this game, emphatically do what no one else would dare, was just as fun as it was shocking. Which, by the way, every single player, without exception, would choose to stay in the game and chase a record if their coach allowed them to.
Thank you. Please. Like, thank you for making me feel vindicated. You know what I'm saying? Like, validated. I'm pretty sure both of those words mean the same thing in this context. But if you have the choice with any competitive bone in your body, if you are allowed to stay in that game and you're having yourself a hell of a game, you're going to stay in the game. That's it. Like, if you're on a roll, you're not going to purposely step out of that. You're not going to purposely step out of that. You're going to milk that entire situation for all it's got and then leave. There's no other case in scenario other than you just getting tired or you just not wanting to play anymore. There's no other case scenario to where you're just hot. You got the hot hand. Nobody can stop you. X, Y, and Z. You can literally have your way in this game. All you need to do is go out there and do it. And you choose not to, other than you being tired or you just not wanting to do it anymore. And I'm talking about the only factors that are like considering the player. 7 for 22 from 3, that means look though. Obviously he stopped. He wasn't cooking from 3. That's why he went to the free throw line 40-something times. That boy went in that paint and started going crazy. You know what I'm saying? He stopped trying to play it efficient and started playing it efficiently. Come on, bro. You ain't got it. Oh my gosh. Look, bro. Look. Y'all gonna have to give me some time before y'all start doing this Wilt Bam Kobe shit. Like, I get it. He's second now. Kobe not second no more. I'm still glad that Kobe's in the conversation because y'all really could have just sat here and said Wilt Bam and just threw Kobe out the window. And that would have been real disrespectful. But nonetheless, like, I don't understand. I really don't understand the whole like discourse about it. Like, I get it. It was unethical. It's not unethical. And when I say I get it, I mean, I understand why you didn't like watching it. It was very unnatural. That's what it really was. It was unnatural. It wasn't unethical because if you guys had the opportunity to do it, you guys would do the exact same thing. It's not an issue of morals. It's an issue of what the viewers want to see, what the viewers deem as a natural game of basketball. And what that fourth quarter was anything but natural. I'm willing to admit that. I'm willing to identify that. It's not even something that I have to admit to. It happened, but some of y'all are denying it, and it's making y'all look nuts. Very delusional. I would have ran up 100. I would have ran up 140. Shoot. Let me get 60 free throws, and I'll gladly take them with a smile on my face. Because I understand, in order for me to get those 60 free throws, 4 different people on that team probably had to get fouled out. if y'all should be mad at anybody revolving this game, you should be mad at every single Washington Wizard that stepped on that court, sat on that bench, and every member of that coaching staff that sat there and allowed that to happen. People mad because they don't expect Bam to go and drop those numbers. Plus, the way he got it is something people find weak. And that's what I'm getting pissed. That's what I get pissed off about. I'm not actually mad. Your opinion is your opinion, but I don't see how you can think your opinion is valid in that case. It's not weak because at the end of the day, you have to go out there and score 83. 83 is 83, 100 is 100, 81 is 81. How you got it is how you got it, and it doesn't really matter. The only issue is from a viewer's perspective. Because like I just said, if you were in Bam's shoes and you got that green light and you know exactly how to get that 83, and your teammates are letting you get that 83, dude, you're not stopping yourself. You're not.
Happens to be the rare case where a coach did allow it. How can we blame Bam for
we need to go back just a little bit.
Choose to stay in the game and chase a record if their coach allowed them to.
If your coach allows it.
This happens to be the rare case where a coach did allow it. How can we blame Bam for doing something every player would do if given the chance? I don't know, maybe instead of putting all the blame on the man who just scored 83 points in an NBA game, we should aim that frustration at the team that allowed it to happen. Throughout this game...
Okay, my bad, Jimmy. My bad. I literally just sat here, paused the video just to go on my rant, just for you to say the exact same thing in less words. If it was LeBron or anyone else, they'd be glazing. Yes, because out of anybody, we would expect people like the LeBrons, the Shays, the Ants, the Lukas, anybody else in that caliber of scoring prowess. We would expect them to be able to do something like that. If it was anybody, it would be them. But still, they're NBA players. Yes, there's a top echelon of the top echelon, but there is a top echelon nonetheless.
Bam attempted
a lot of these people
shots,
are capable
which is a lot,
with a lot more than what they are giving credit for.
Game? Kobe. And you want to know who shot more shots? We should aim that frustration at the team that allowed it to happen. Throughout this game, Bam attempted 43 shots, which is a lot. But you want to know who shot more shots in a single game? Kobe, and Westbrook, and DeJounte Murray, and Kobe, and Cade Cunningham, and Kobe, Chris Webber, Kobe, Brunson, Jordan, and Kobe. What about all those free throws Bam attempted? Those are the symptom of a team desperate to slow a player down, but can't stop him without fouling. It has been decades since the last time a player chased points to this extent, let alone had a coaching staff that allowed him to do it. But as I previously mentioned, this feels like conclusive proof that the only thing keeping that 100-point record intact is sheer respect for the unwritten rules and the opposing team and the game itself. If Bam can go for 83, I can only imagine what players like Luka, Shea, Giannis, and Wemby could go for if given the opportunity. But now that we're stuck looking at this for the foreseeable future, what are your thoughts on this game? Do you feel like Bam's 83 was legitimate? Or did the tactics used at the end of this game damage the legacy of this performance and how we'll remember it? I gotta know.
And with that being said, if you sit here and think about that last 9 minutes of that game, and you really think that last 9 minutes tarnished the legacy of that game and, you know, the top 3 points of all time and stuff like that, you're tripping. You're tripping, especially with the information I was just giving here. But like I said, there needs to be a shift in the conversation from things that are unnatural to from things that are unethical to things that are unnatural as a viewer. That's where the conversation needs to be headed, because this whole unethical, like, you guys, first of all, you guys throw that word around a lot. Meanwhile, if you guys were in that same position with that same capability, you will probably do the same thing. And if these people were the foul baiters that you guys, you know, put y'all whole life savings on them being, you also probably share the belief that without them foul baiting, they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing, which means the game will be harder for them, which means if you're in their shoes, the game will be harder for you, and will also make you stupid because you know a better way to get more points. You know a way to get more points in an easier rate, and you're choosing not to do it as a competitor. But anyways, that's my opinions on that. Y'all let me know in the comments. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about it. Am I making any sense? I feel like I am, but I'm always open for banter. You know what I'm saying? Y'all let me know in the comments. Y'all let me know on any of my other platforms, and I'll catch y'all in the next vid. Y'all folks be safe, man.